As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the South Korean film market, and I have seen a lot of films that I love from there. But this is probably my personal favorite of their films, and arguably one of the best movies I've seen. Um, I went to IMDb just an hour ago or so, and there's not a single 100 perfect score from any of the critics that are on there. So I think I'm officially overlooking at critics' reviews or anybody's reviews for the most part. I'll still use my IMDb kind of gauge of like anything under a 4 is not worth watching. Anything over a 7 is definitely worth watching. That's pretty much steered me right forever, but not one single perfect score. The highest score on this film was in 83. Not even in the 90s. Low 80s. Fucking outrageous. Outrageous. And it had a few 40s. Guys, this movie is perfect. Like, if any fucking film deserves 100, it's this one. That's baffling to me. Anyways, all right, let's talk about this film. Spoilers, obviously. Now, the director of this did A Tale of Two Sisters, which I haven't seen in a long time. They did remake it. Wasn't that called like the some with a U? I don't know. Whatever. I think it was. Maybe not. I saw that too. Obviously, nowhere near as good. And he made the Arnold Schwarzenegger film The Last Stand with Johnny Knoxville, which just blows my mind that the director of I Saw the Devil did The Last Stand. That's crazy. And the killer in this movie is probably even better known for his role in Old Boy, which, when I think about it, it's like, what's the quintessential revenge film? And the first few films that would pop to mind would be I Saw the Devil, Old Boy, and probably something like I Spit on Your Grave, or just movies that when I hear revenge, I am going to pretty much instantly think of. I think that this is probably the best revenge film ever made, in my opinion, and from what I've seen. It just takes it in such a different direction, like the way this film plays out is essentially what I've always wanted to see. I talk about this all the time on the channel. Is like, you get the Jasons and the Michaels and whoever, and they're killing these teens who can't really fight back, and we basically just have to watch them be punching bags for 90 minutes. And I've said in many reviews, like, I just want one guy to know what he's doing and to just beat the fuck out of Michael Myers or whoever for an hour. I just want to see, or just get his ass kicked and then the credits roll, whatever. This is basically that film. This is that film where you've got this killer here, and he thinks this is badass, and he thinks he's this psychopath that, can't be reckoned with. And he meets his match. He meets his fucking match, and this guy brutalizes his life. That being said, this film isn't just like, easy. It's much deeper than that, and it explores the psychology of a serial killer and what tragedy does to a seemingly normal guy. Like, what depths grief and loss can bring you to. The path to revenge and what the cost of it is. And man, I mean, no American fucking film would ever have the balls to make a film like this, or be like this, should I say. No American filmmaker, no American studio would ever green light or release a film like this. This movie is brutal, man. It's fucking brutal. And the performances here are just fantastic. Just both leads in this are excellent in their respective roles. The music is excellent. Okay, I'm sure you guys can guess by saying it's a perfect film. I'm going to say everything's amazing because every single aspect of the film is fantastic, from the storytelling to the direction to the music to the writing to the everything. So let's just stop right here and just say it's all perfect. It's all wonderful in that way. And let's talk specifics here within the film. I found it funny that the opening, like, production company or distribution house or whatever it was, it's like this happy, I forget what the company's name was, but it seemed like a production company for like a kids movie. It was really like happy and lighthearted, and I was like, this is a weird ass way like to start this film. Like that company must have put their logo at the beginning of this and either just laughed or was like, wow, we maybe should have made a different one for this movie. I thought that was pretty funny. The opening music with him driving and it's like this shot through the window, the shot selection in here, and I know I said I'm not going to get into like blowing all the technical aspects, but fuck, it's hard. But like the use of slow-mo, the use of like the lack of like audio, like sound, and just like playing music, muting everything out, and then the use of narration, all in that first like 10 minutes, all are used expertly to enhance dramatic sequences. God, it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. And he comes up to this young girl and she's on the phone. And another thing, like, the director and the actors so instantly sell us on the fact that this guy loves his fiancée. Doesn't take much. A couple words, he sings a little bit. Just the framing, the acting, all of that stuff is used so perfectly in this film. It's crazy. So we're already on board with this guy and his relationship with this girl, and then we watch this girl just brutalized. This fucking poor girl. It's hard to watch, man. This sweet chick, she's taken by this guy, and he's got her chained up, and she begs for her life. I'm pregnant. Please don't kill me. He asks why. I'm pregnant. Please don't do it. And just no hesitation. No, like, no value for human life. Just nothing. Just the devil. He's the fucking devil. And he takes this girl's life and he just hacks her up into pieces. And that gore is so realistic. Like the aftermath of her body when he like walks away and it's just split up. Could you imagine? I mean, I hate to put this into people's heads, but it's a horror channel. Could you imagine coming upon your fiance, your husband, your wife, your kid, anybody like that? Anybody you love, care about? Shit, coming across anybody hacked up like that would be a lot. But like your soon-to-be wife, your soon-to-be husband? I mean, it would turn almost anybody into this guy. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have the skills he has in order to achieve this goal, but that's the other thing. Like, I tell people when it comes to altercations and fighting, there's a couple things you can't account for. You cannot account for. Number one is psychosis. Like, fighting someone who's psychotic it's unpredictable. They have a different, like, they have a different strength and resilience. It's really more of the resilience. Like, they're fucking psychotic. They don't care. They're resilient to pain. They're resilient to the rules. Like, in civilized society, like, they don't give a shit. So you think you're Mr. Badass, and then you fight someone who's absolutely psychotic. They won't stop. I remember one time my girlfriend, many, many, many years ago, had this guy who she used to date and was over, and she was like trying to get me to act cool, and he was being a dick, and I wanted to beat the fuck out of him so bad. And she was just like begging me, no, don't do it. I can get out of him. I can get him out of here. You know, no violence, no nothing. Like, let me handle it. And I was like, all right. Long story short, he says something awful to her. I heard it. I was like chomping at the bit. She came downstairs because she tried hard enough. And I remember she looked at me. She gave me this look of like, I tried. Like, go handle it. Like, do your thing. That's what it really was. It was like a do your thing kind of look. And I ran up those stairs like a rabid dog. And I went at this kid and I grabbed him by the throat and I beat the fuck out of this guy. And I remember I was holding him by the throat, and because he just wouldn't quit. He would not quit no matter how much abuse I gave him. And I remember looking into his eyes, and I had him by the throat and I was trying to scare him, because I wanted him to leave. You know how you like go in, but I'm not fucking psychotic. You know, I don't want to kill anybody. I mean, unless he like killed her or something, you know, something insane, hurt my kids, then we'd be talking something different. But just like being mean isn't, you know, justifiable enough for me to kill somebody. As I said, I'm not crazy. But I remember holding him by the neck. I was choking the fucking life out of him to scare him, because I wanted him to never come back. I thought I'd send him the message, you know. And it wasn't like he was trying to call my bluff. At first, I kind of thought that's what it was. But I remember looking into his eyes and seeing that he didn't care. And he was like, kill me. I don't care. Kill me. Do it. And the look in his eyes was so genuine. He did not care. And although I was trying to scare him, what happened is it flipped around. And now I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And when you're in that situation where he's like, kill me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what the fuck do I do here? Because he's threatening to kill her. He's threatening to kill me. I let him go. I can't kill him, you know? And he wants to fucking grab a knife or something. I mean, at that point, if he tried to do something, but I already let him go, and who knows? So I got scared. I was like, holy shit, he called my bluff. I don't know what the fuck to do now. And thankfully, I let him go, and he left. And basically, I mean, things got a little shitty thereafter, but nothing really came of it. But I remember being terrified in that moment. And so that was one thing that I encountered that I was like, it's like, dude, you don't fuck with crazy. You just don't fuck with crazy. You don't know. They're too unpredictable, as I said. And the second thing you can't predict is like someone's desire for revenge. Like somebody who's you know, basically crazy. I mean, it's almost the same thing, but it's like you've wronged someone and they have like more of a dog in the fight than you do. Like, you're going into it like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this guy up, I'm mad. This guy's going into it like, you're the only thing I've ever focused on. You're the only thing that I want. You're the only thing that I need. I need to kill you. I need to harm you. There's something about that focus that just makes someone scarier, just makes someone a more formidable foe. And that's what you have going at each other in this film. You have someone who's full on psychotic, and someone who's created to be a monster. And that's something they play around with in this film. a decent amount. They talk about it, like the cannibal guy that the killer goes to. He says, ironically, you created a monster. Like, you're a fucking monster. You created a monster. These monstrous acts sometimes create a monstrous response. If I had, like, when Jennifer was pregnant with my kids, if I found out some sicko fucking murdered her, cut her up, while my kids were inside of her, and her and I weren't even together at that time. We weren't even, like, crazy about each other. Let's stack that on top of it. Oh my God. I mean, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure what I'd do, but I can't tell you that I wouldn't do something like this. I can't tell you what I would do, but I can't tell you that I for sure wouldn't do this. So anytime I watch any of these revenge movies, I really look deep down into myself, and I think a few things. I think, number one, I don't know what depths and darkness my mind could get to. I've went very dark in my life, but I've never had someone murder a loved one like this. So I don't know. It scares me, though, for sure. It's a terrifying thought, because you don't want to have to commit monstrous acts like this. You don't want to have to ever be like this. This isn't fucking cool. I don't watch this movie and think, oh, this guy's so cool, he's beating the shit out of this guy. I'm definitely supportive. I'm definitely cheering him on, for sure. His vengeance is justifiable, but not ideal. This isn't something you want to do. He'd much rather be with his wife, pregnant, happy, right? So this isn't something I'm cheering on. So, yeah, I mean, when I think about those things, I definitely think, like, what level of darkness I could get to. I think I had a second thing to say there. Maybe it'll come back to me. It doesn't really matter. I'm just saying, like, I think this film explores the dynamic of revenge so well, and the mind of a psychopath and the broken mind of a man who's just hell-bent on revenge. And throughout the film, he's seeking retribution. He thinks, she suffered, I'll make him suffer. I'll make it up to her. I pledge myself. He says this in the film, that he made a promise to her. He pledges himself to getting vengeance and making him feel what she did. And ultimately, he's a failure at this. And that's yet another thing that American cinema, I just don't feel like would effectively do well enough, if at all. Like, he loses, and the killer, he gloats about it in his face. You can't win. You've already lost. You can't scare me. He only uses manipulation tactics in this. Of, please let me live, let me live. He flips that stuff around, and he even calls him out for it. He's like, oh, I bet you've heard these pleas before. And so he tries to use them as a ploy. He's not scared. He's never fucking scared in this movie for a second. I mean, maybe at the very end when his family's come in, but I feel it's more anger than anything. More like, I don't think he has real human emotion. So outside of just like pure anger, he's more like pissed off. And he says to him, he screams to him in the microphone, like, that he knows is there at that point. Like, I'm not dying no matter what. Like, he feels like his sheer will keep him alive because of how much he wants to get back at this guy. But ultimately, he knows that's not true. And he's very angry about it. So, I think people could take it like, oh, he did get him in the end. His family, he was there, and he got him. I don't take it like that at all. He doesn't give a fuck about his kid. He abandoned his kid. We find that out. He doesn't give a shit about his family. He fucking bailed on them too. couldn't care less about these people. He just doesn't want to die because he wants to get back at them, or back at him for what he's done. He doesn't want him to have the upper hand on him in any way. So yeah, to add insult to injury, it's the girl's birthday. So she's pregnant. She's recently engaged. It's her birthday, and she's murdered. I mean, dude, anything's gonna set a guy off that truly loves his girl like that. It's gonna be this. Now, he looks like he's doing some kind of detail work in the beginning, like he's like some secret service agent or something. The head they find in the water looks super realistic. It was crazy. All the gore in this is phenomenal. The dad trying to see his daughter when he goes down to the water is brutal, man. It's just like, it's so subtle and refined and patient, and just such effective filmmaking, you know. Like, don't get me wrong, the scene in Mystic River when Sean Penn goes down there, is that my daughter in there? And he screams, and he looks up at the camera and he's screaming and all. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic, seriously, genuinely. But there's something to be said about this version too, where the dad never even sees the body. He is shown only in very quiet, reserved anguish, and the you know, and the husband, the main character of this movie as well, he never sees her. He doesn't have this big emotional breakdown where he's punching people and screaming at the top of his lungs. He just turns around and the broken man has begun, and tears flow, and it's just fantastic. Like, he's already plotting his revenge at this point, you know. So good. And he doesn't even really have his real cry until the very end. Makes sense. It's almost like he reserves it. He holds it in, like, no, I'm not gonna fucking let it go until I get whoever did this. It's like he saves that moment. Like, now that I know he's dead, now that I have my vengeance, I can grieve. Ugh, it's so gross. It's so dark, man, but so well done. When he goes in and he finds all the suspects that are possibly, you know, have done this. First guy goes in, busts his balls, literally. That's amazing. When he hits the guy's balls and you can just see him moving around in there and crushing. Fuck. And, you know, the reason he becomes a monster, because people are, oh, he's not a monster, he's just getting revenge. The reason he becomes a monster is because he doesn't care who he hurts. He lets this guy back out in the wild, and what happens? A pharmacist gets fucking his neck slit. The mother, you know, the girl's, his fiance's father gets his head bashed in. This fucking, you know, this young girl gets sodomized, or, well, I guess sodomy is only in the butt. Is that true? Oral rape. How would you say it? Sodomy count for oral rape? Sodomized her. He stuck his dick in her mouth without her permission. Sodomy? No? I don't know. What would that be called? Whatever it is. It's fucked up. He did it. So, and more, for sure. You know? So he let this guy back out into the wild just to hunt him. So he's not perfect. He's not the hero in this. He's the anti-hero at best. You know? He's a shithead too for letting this. He should have just tied this guy. If he wanted this kind of revenge, he should have just tied him to something and tortured him for the whole film, like in Daddy's Little Girl or something. But no, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care who he hurts. He's going to send him out in the wild. It's like catch and release, catch and release, catch and release. And are creepy vans a thing in Korea? Because over here, like, creepy vans are a thing. People are like, oh, that guy's driving a fucking creeper van. Don't get near that thing. This girl, like, hops right in this guy's van. So, that's not a thing? Oh, Jesus. He gives her a pipe wrench. Or a pipe, I'm sorry, just an actual pipe, not a wrench. A pipe to the head. He bashes her head in. It's brutal. And then the next scene is her sitting there naked, and he guillotines her head off. Guillotine. Jesus Christ, man. And then when our dude finds his fiance's ring in the gutter, in the little rain, and he like looks at it, his acting there is phenomenal. Every emotion is felt so perfectly on his face. It illustrates so well what he's, he conveys to the audience so well what he's thinking and feeling, without saying a word. This is acting. Jesus Christ, this is phenomenal. Every bit of hurt, anger, everything is in his eyes, on his face. Phenomenal acting. I love how every time he like catches and releases him, he breaks or hurts and injures something on him. Breaks his fucking wrist, cuts his Achilles tendon, and that scene where he cuts into it and it's slow. It's not like just like the normal where they just slice the back of the Achilles and they open up. No. He digs in from the back and he slowly starts slicing out of it as the guy's screaming in agony. It's fucking phenomenal. Like, happening to this guy couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Couldn't have happened to a better guy, man. He needed it. How the tracker is able to hear while it's inside of him, I don't understand that. So, flaw? I don't know. I don't really care. But could it record? Could you hear when it was inside of you like that? I mean, I just don't see how that'd be possible. Maybe I'm wrong. The killer in this just loves terrorizing people. I mean, he just gets off on it. He just goes around and terrorizes the fuck out of people. That's his thing. That's what he enjoys. He's a rapist, and he just genuinely is like stimulated by being a prick, by just going in and scaring and intimidating and strong-arming and bullying and torturing, like anything he can do. He is the fucking devil, man. He really is. And I like how, he cuts him and all this stuff, and he's like, just kill me. And he's like, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started, motherfucker. I'm gonna let you go for a while. Now the guys in the cab, this is coincidental happenstance, which is a little bit of a stretch that he would run into two guys who were, who had murdered somebody in that moment. It seems a little too convenient. But because the scene is so fucking awesome, and that whole car scene when he's knifing the guy in the neck and the other guy in the back, his arm doesn't really seem that broken there. And he takes a little too much abuse in this movie for someone to realistically live through. But whatever, I don't care about any of that. The whole car stabbing scene is just so intense, and it's fantastic. I love how he breaks his arm and then gives him a bunch of money, and he wakes up and he's like, this guy's fucking crazy. When this dude's calling you crazy, you've won just a little bit. And then, he takes this, I guess he takes his kill over to these, cannibals, and this cannibal specifically, this guy definitely has a lot of money, so maybe he's paying him for this and that. I don't know. But this guy has like lost his damn mind, and he ends up getting his face ripped. That's the only like scene that I really wish we would have saw more of, is him ripping the guy's jaw open. Maybe they would have thought it looked too stupid and fake. Could you, if you grabbed inside someone's face, could you rip their jaw like off, or like rip their cheeks out from their jaw as someone was trying to close their jaw? I don't know, man. That seems like you'd have to have some serious upper body strength, upper arm strength. That would take so much, like, pounds per square inch, isn't that? to rip someone's jaw out like that. So maybe they did shoot it and they were like, yeah, it's a little much. But he makes him straight up Itchy the killer in this, and yeah, we don't get to see it, which is a shame. I really do wish we would have saw that. That's he does that right after he like laughingly tells him that he raped his pregnant wife to be. So yeah, I mean the amount of adrenaline and anger he would have in him, maybe he could rip someone's fucking face off. And then yeah, I mean I basically covered everything. I just I'm not gonna be repetitive here, more so than I already have been. It's a fantastic film. I mean, in the end, I look at this as this guy threw his life away. Um, you know, as the old adage goes, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact wording off the top of my head, but it's something along the lines of like, those who seek revenge should dig two graves, something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, he fucking ended his life here. I mean, what does he have left? Those cops are in on the know. He, has this action moments. He has this action scene moment where he like knocks the door off the car, comes in, drifts, grabs the guy, pulls him into the car because the guy goes and he commits these acts. So sorry to interrupt. I know I never do this. I know I never edit or make corrections or whatever, but this is more of an insertion. And anyway, really quick, I didn't mention in my review, and hey, try talking for 30 straight minutes about something and not leaving something out. It happens all the time and it bothers me. And this was a movie that was so important to me that I was like, I gotta talk about this really quick. But our main character here, in his quest for revenge, ends up getting his fiance's father brutally beaten and her sister murdered. And this is just kind of further illustrating the futility of revenge and the price of revenge being more than it's worth. In scenarios like this, like if I was to find out after my death that someone was trying to avenge my death, and because of their actions that got my brother and my father killed, I would definitely not rest well. I'd be haunting their ass. I'd be, very, very furious. So I think that this film perfectly illustrates how revenge can go so much different than you ever thought it was going to. You think you're going to get something out of it. And ironically, and I talk about this in the review, but ironically, he tries to create a monster, and the only thing that really ends up happening is he becomes the monster, and he gets her loved ones killed. And this just shows you, the folly of it all, which I think is brilliant. And it's just something I couldn't let not be in this review. Like, I didn't talk about that. I didn't talk about how he ended up killing her sister, and that that's a very important piece. And I spaced it in the review, and then I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about it. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I gotta record something and insert it really quick, because I think that's such an important piece of the puzzle of like his ultimate failure, because that's really what this movie comes down to me. It is his true ultimate failure in his quest for revenge, and it's really devastating. That guy basically won. I mean, even though he gets killed, what's left of our main character here when it's over? I mean, really, think about what his life's going to be like now, mentally and just out in the world with his job and everything. I mean, all of that's over. His life is fucking ruined, and he ruined other people's lives. So just something I wanted to insert in here really quick. So I'll let myself get back to yammering. So anyways, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Adios. He fucking ruined so many people's lives by letting this guy out in the wild, but he didn't care. This was all about getting his revenge. This was all about keeping his promise to his dead wife to be. And And I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? You think he's successful? I mean, look at how many people got hurt. But then again, he took out a cannibal and his associate, that girl, although she lived, the other guy didn't. And then he killed this guy. So he took two scumbags off the street, but I guess he could have done it more surgically. But had he not released that guy, then he would have killed that girl in his butcher's shop. So I'm sure she's pretty thankful that he went down the road he did. And the little girl that he was going to rape, I'm sure she's happy he saved her. So he ends up saving a couple of people, but he kind of ends up ruining a few people's lives. So maybe they kind of like wash each other clean. I don't know. It's like a wash, right? I think overall, he thought that he could make this guy human. And in the end, it's really about, like, he wanted to humanize this guy. He wanted to elicit a real emotional response from this guy, like fear, remorse, and he just couldn't get it out of him. And he just, as he says, he underestimated him. He underestimated how truly evil this guy actually was. He thought he was going to be able to get him to break, and he never did. So I would assume in his mind he saw himself as a failure, and I can understand that. But I don't know where I stand on that. I would definitely not be someone who would release him out into the wild like that, because I would figure he would kill other people, harm other people. But I'm not this guy. And this guy wants to just disrupt his life, follow him around, and just keep letting him think he's gotten away again, and keep antagonizing him till he's dead. So, who am I to judge how someone does their revenging? Anyways, if you guys haven't seen this movie and you're still watching, what the hell are you doing? Go watch this. Go watch Old Boy. Go watch The Wailing. Go watch Thirst. Go watch fucking so many amazing South Korean films. Jesus Christ. There's so many amazing ones. Like, genuinely. If you haven't watched much, do yourself a favor. Look up lists of best South Korean films. Shit. If you didn't watch freaking the film that won Best Picture last year, any of those, just do yourself a favor. Get a hold of Parasite, get a hold of whatever. Watch this shit, man. It really is remarkable. So, anyways,